Hey everybody! So I don't know if you saw the big dust up, but did you see this? That is Ellen sitting with George W. Bush at a game, and they're all giggling and having a good time. They're at a Dallas Cowboys game, and I just want to. And then this guy tweeted, Ryan Boyd tweeted, "This is what class solidarity looks like." So I just want to remind you, because I remember this. George Bush backs ban in Constitution. He wanted to amend the Constitution to make sure gays could permanently never have equal rights. He wanted to amend, the most powerful guy in the world, pushed, gave speeches, tried to amend the Constitution, demonized gays. An amendment to the Constitution is never to be undertaken lightly, said George Bush. The amendment process has addressed many serious matters of national concern, and the preservation of marriage rises to the level of national importance. We got to make sure we can discriminate against gays forever. By the way, this is Colin Powell's chief of staff. He says he's a war criminal. Right there, Bush and Cheney should be charged with war crimes, says Colonel Wilkerson, former aide to Colin Powell, top aide. So here's this picture again. So here they are. So Ellen came out, and she addressed it today on her show. Watch this.
And he's got fancy friends.
So she got invited by the Jones, the guy who owns the company.
Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones' daughter invited her, and she's saying they've got very fancy friends. That's what she's saying.
And he's got fancy friends. And I don't mean fancy like Real Housewife fancy. I mean like fancy. Look, I took a video of who...
Fancy? Well, I wonder. Fancy. Watch who she considers fancy.
Who was next to me.
I'm sitting here with one of the worst human beings to ever walk the earth, a mass murdering war criminal who also specifically targeted people like me for discrimination through the power of the Constitution. But we're all rich. We're all super rich, and we don't have any problems that government has to solve. That's her fancy friend. That's what she calls a fancy friend. A guy who should be locked up in The Hague. That's a fancy friend to someone who's worth $50 million. I'm sure she's worth more than that. Now watch her excuse. Here's the excuse for this. Listen to this.
A shot of George and me laughing together. And so... people were upset. They thought, why is a gay Hollywood liberal sitting next to a conservative Republican president?
That's not what people were thinking. You weren't sitting next to a conservative Republican president. You were sitting next to a mass murdering war criminal who specifically targeted people like you for discrimination.
You know, I do want to just say, Jimmy, that I find it kind of interesting that she has to identify herself as a liberal.
Yes.
Because I'd like to challenge that.
I would like to challenge that, too.
I'm holding the brand new iPhone 11. And, but a lot of people were mad, and they did what people do when they're mad. They tweet. But here's one tweet that I loved. This person says, Ellen and George Bush together makes me have faith in America again.
Why? Why? Because we can turn a blind eye to war crimes and murder? Because Trump tweets mean things? That's what she's saying. Because she doesn't have a moral center? Because Ellen DeGeneres has no moral center? That's what she's saying. That's why. Yeah, be friends with the worst people in the world who never had to pay for their crimes. Exactly. You know, the elite never get punished. We choked out a black guy for selling Lucy's.
Here's a thing. I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have.
Did you hear that?
She's friends with George Bush. And watch this. She's friends with George Bush.
George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay.
It's not about your beliefs, your political beliefs. You integrity-challenged classist. What a class hole Ellen is.
That's my favorite new term, Jimmy. Class hole.
All different. For instance, I wish people wouldn't wear fur. I don't like it, but I'm friends with people who wear fur. And I'm friends with people who are furry.
Yeah, I mean, people who wear fur, mass-murdering war criminals, it's the same thing. I mean, that's the same thing. I also don't like people who wear 2 earrings. I don't know what that is. I just thought it's the same thing as a mass-murdering. It's the same thing. Could she be more shallow?
Matter of fact, I have friends who should tweeze more. And I have, but just because I don't agree with someone on everything doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends with them. When I say
agree with someone on everything. She doesn't agree with him, but I guess you didn't agree with the war crimes? Do you agree with torture? Do you agree with lying our country into an illegal war that killed 1 million people? Women, men, children, grandmothers, gay people, transgendered people. 1 million of them killed, dead. You empty, fucking, soulless Hollywood scum.
Kind to one another. I don't mean only the people that think the same way that you do. I mean be kind to everyone. Doesn't matter.
Okay, except if you're a union writer on her show. If you're a union writer or a union activist or organizer, you will be cast out on her show. I have that knowledge. How about that? So Ellen DeGeneres is not a nice person as she presents. Everybody I know who's ever worked for her fucking hates her. All the comics I know who's written for her have nothing but horror stories to tell about her. So this is a show. That's why it's a show. It's called a show. So she's pretending to be a good person.
Even people who are already playing Christmas music. I mean, seriously, there's no excuse for that, but I'm kind to them. Anyway, I want to thank Jerry Jones, Charlotte Jones for hosting us, and thanks President Bush and Laura for a Sunday afternoon that was so fun. By the way, you owe me $6.
Okay, I'll let other people say it for me now. Glenn Greenwald says, I'm friends with George W. Bush, explaining why she was sitting next to the torturer and war criminal laughing it up at a football game, reflecting the prevailing liberal ethos. It's one party, one class. It's all about class. Liberals always side with the fascists during a revolution. Don't forget that. Here's Susan Sarandon. But missing the point entirely, DeGeneres framed the issue as simply a matter of her hanging out with someone with different opinions, not a man repeatedly accused of being a war criminal. So people see right through you, Ellen. What do you think you were going to bullshit everybody with this bullshit speech about being kind? It worked on your stupid audience, which just shows that you have a good warm-up. Walter Bragman lays it out pretty well. He says, here's the thing, Ellen. George W. Bush is a war criminal who's responsible for death on a cataclysmic scale. It's not a matter of being friends with people with different beliefs. We all have those friends. It's about having a little perspective on the damage he's done. This man's administration oversaw the systematic torture and abuse of indefinitely detained brown individuals. He destabilized an entire region of the world, and men, women, and children are still dying for his arrogance. He eroded civil liberties in a way that we may never reverse. And of course, he presided over a massive upward transfer of wealth. These are just some of the wrongs Bush did to this country. For you to sit in a VIP section and have so fun afternoon with him was completely tone deaf. To call him a friend on national television was worse. This incident serves as proof that elites stick together, no matter the criminality or monstrosity of each individual. So for that, The Ellen Show, I suppose we should thank you. You're showing us what we can expect to happen a few years after Donald Trump leaves office. I'm seeing a lot of indignant responses here from presumably liberal folks. I just like to remind everyone that we are still fighting Bush's wars, and that people are still dying. One last point. Yes, this would also apply to Barack Obama. Obama expanded our overseas military engagements and our domestic surveillance. He carried out war crimes. He oversaw a massive upward transfer of wealth. He droned American citizens without due process. Let's be real. And that's why we have Trump. Change on the outside, continuity on the inside. Ron Ukalik says, I bet there's a major crossover between people who think sitting next to George W. Bush is adorable and people who think Tulsi is a monster for meeting with Assad. So the same people. Kamala Harris is a cop, says, who knew you never under any circumstance normalize war criminals would be such a difficult concept to grasp. Here, it gets a little worse. Here's Rosie O'Donnell. She tweets out a picture of the guy at the football game. She says, how comforting to see a real president. What is... Trump broke so many people's brains. So many people's brains. They stole the election from Al Gore in Florida. And then he's a war... I mean, it's just, what the F? I never thought this image would move me so. It's because she hates Trump. Do you see how they can't? I mean, I know you have to have an ego to be in show business, but what Rosie O'Donnell is showing us is that she is all ego because all she cares about is hating on Donald Trump. So much that she's going to pretend that George Bush, who hated on gays like her and tortured brown people, killed 1 million of them, on the lies for oil, that moves her. Now you know the bankruptcy of celebrities like Rosie O'Donnell. And I don't take any pleasure in saying that because for some reason Rosie O'Donnell follows me. So I'm going to get blocked after this video. But if Rosie had any integrity and dignity and a fucking sense of self, she would never stop apologizing for that stupid tweet, and she would maybe do something that calls out George Bush. You know, that's why we have Donald Trump, because of assholes like you who normalize war criminals who screw over poor people and brown people and gay people, every people except the people who have the same amount of money as you do. That's why we have Trump, because of fucking people like that. People cheered, Republicans cheered when Donald Trump stood up to Jeb Bush and said, your brother lied us into a war. Everybody cheered. Apparently that doesn't bother you. Ron Placone says, I have plenty of friends who don't share my political views. If any of them started an illegal war, I think it would compromise our friendships a little bit. So there you go. That's the rot inside the liberal class. That's what Chris Hedges refers to as the liberal class. There they are, right on display. Disgusting people.
Can I just read this, Jimmy? You know, when I see something like this, you know how they're trying to normalize, and we've heard this. You know, 2 years ago, I heard somebody go, "Boy, I really miss Bush." I'm like, "What? You're misguided."
People hated George Bush so much. They elected a black guy with a Muslim name after him in an era of terrorism. That's how much they hated George Bush.
So I don't know if, you know, Ellen suffers from some sort of mental disorder, if she's a narcissist or sociopath.
She's both of those things, probably.
But I want to just read a couple definitions about narcissists that they, from Healthline. It says grandiose sense of self-importance. Okay, got it. But I thought this was kind of interesting. Belief they're special and unique, and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions.
Ah, there you go, baby. There you go. Jesus Christ. Our next live Jimmy Dore show is November 5th in Buffalo, New York, November 17th in Philadelphia, and December 27th in Honolulu. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all of our live shows and become a patron or a Jimmy Dore Show member at jimmydorecomedy.com/join and support the show. We give you hours of bonus content every week. Thanks for your support.